this podcast is focused on free value for you, but if you want to work together, I will definitely, I scream from the rooftops.
What we do at Occupi is we give residents 20 different methods for how they can pay, and we really meet them where they are.
I love that you're focusing on communities that aren't really tech. I have a property, my tenants I don't even see, they send on Venmo, they send, not Cash App, that's crazy. This Reid Hoffman, who started LinkedIn, says building a startup is like putting together an airplane as it's falling through the sky.
We raised $3.2 million by the end of the second quarter of last year, and we're really proud of our team.
This is the first non-AI company I've had on the show in like a year. Only like 2% of venture capital goes to female founders, which is ridiculous. I think that's the latest statistic.
Marketing is not my skill set. That is a piece of the business that I really struggle with.
Welcome to the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by GrowthExpertz. You're in store for a chat about funding, marketing, startups, and all things growth.
All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to the Funded Now What podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lee Miller, also known as Andrew Startups. And today I'm very excited because we finally found a female founder that's raised a lot of money lately. Okay. Taylor Peake is the founder and CEO of, I should have asked you before, is it Occupi?
Occupi.
Okay. So you branded properly. If it was a Occupi, that would not work, but it's Occupi with an I at the end. They've raised $3 million to revolutionize digital rent payments. So if you're out there, writing a check to your landlord still, you'll definitely want to stick around and listen to this. Taylor, thank you so much for joining me from home, by the way.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So tell everybody about Occupi and what made you start it.
So I'm a landlord myself. I own 3 affordable housing communities in our state in Alabama. And so this was an issue that I was struggling with as a property manager, and not just giving residents more options for how they can pay and being more accessible, but also making sure that the funds got to the right spot. So when I was running reports at the end of the month or looking for when leases came up, that the payments appeared where they were supposed to be, and saw that there was really a gap in the market, particularly in the affordable low-income housing end that we wanted to jump into, and that we really wanted to be the solution for that.
Okay, so what is the solution? I mean, valiant effort. Really love that you're focusing on communities that aren't really tech enabled as much, but what is the tech and how does it work?
So what we do at Occupi is we give residents 20 different methods for how they can pay, and we really meet them where they are. So whether they prefer Chime or Varo or Majority, Venmo, Cash App, regardless of their payment method of choice, they can select the payment they want to pay with. They can switch in between those payment methods. They submit their payment method through us, and we make sure that it gets to the right place. With operators and property managers who are our customers, we help put all of their community rules and restrictions in place. So for example, if they only accept full balance payments, if they have different rules for different payment accounts within their communities, we put that in place for them. And then we make sure that all of those payments get to the right spots within their property management system.
Okay, so who's the customer then? Is it two-sided marketplace almost, where you have to get the property managers on the platform first, and then they educate the end user, or who are you charging? What's the revenue?
That's right. The property manager or the community owners are our customers. And so we work in multifamily, manufactured housing, single family, and with housing authorities. Those are all of our customers. And then we support their residents. And so the property managers, as anyone in the space will know, the property managers and the operators are really who's telling residents, who's providing the service for their trash pickup, who's coordinating with all of their residents, maintaining their properties on a regular basis. And our customers just tell the residents, this is the service that we're using. You now have more options for how you pay, and you actually have someone that you can get in touch with if you have an issue with your payment account. Got
it. So that's basically the value prop for the property owner. So I have a property. My tenants I don't even see, they send on Venmo, they send, not Cash App. That's crazy. But what is it? Venmo or Zelle is the main way. So the benefit for me is, streamlining it, and then they complain to you if there's an issue, so I don't get bothered. That's basically it. If I have like hundreds of units, that's quite a big value.
Exactly. Yeah. So we set up all of those corporate accounts. So you're not having to manage that. You're not having to manage that Venmo account. You're not having to manage these individual accounts. And we make sure that it gets transferred to the right operating account for each of our communities. And so we handle everything related to payments end to end, supporting the residents, collecting the payments, making sure that they're posted into the right place, and then depositing it into the appropriate accounts.
Do you do like collections and stuff for late payments, or how do you help with that?
We do, in the sense that we certainly collect a lot of late payments and we certainly collect a lot of payments coming through, but we're not a collection agency
Yeah.
in the sense that we don't manage the eviction process or providing notices or anything like that. But we always are collecting payments and late payments. We even collect some utility payments and trash payments each month as part of what residents are paying communities.
Interesting. Okay. So very cool. And, I think this is the first non-AI company I've had on the show in like a year. I should ask though, like, what are you doing with AI to make AI part of the product? Like,
that's a required question, right? No, absolutely. Well, we use many AI tools, of course. I have an information systems degree. I'm a software engineer by background, and we have a very technical team. And so we use it internally in many
of
circumstances,
course.
but we're really focused about the integrations piece of our technology as far as how those payment workflows work is the technology piece that I would say our team is really focused on. And there are several ways we use different AI tools and AI platforms to contribute and to help our development team as we continue to build out the product and build out new features as well.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the funding round. You raised $3 million. Props on that. I mean, from, first of all, Alabama, not easy to raise money from. Female founder, we know that only like 2% of venture capital goes to female founders, which is ridiculous. I think that's the latest statistic. So yeah, what kind of advice do you have, and how was that process? If any other female founders or people in Alabama are wondering how you did it, tell us.
So we did. We raised a $3.2 million by the end of the second quarter of last year. And we're really proud of our team from the growth that we've had in the 3 quarters after that. And we were really fortunate that we have 4 VC groups that are involved in our company. And those 4 are all female VCs. So that's
Wow.
been amazing to kind of have leadership and support from those 4 VCs. I would say 2 things. I would say funding is never an easy process. Like, I wouldn't say that it was easy for us. It was difficult in several ways, and also difficult navigating who are the right groups that you want to be involved in. Who do you want to raise money from? Who's really going to help position you in the best way possible? What are the terms that you can agree to? So I certainly wouldn't say it was easy, but I do feel like we had a fantastic experience and ended up with the venture capital groups that we want to be with and that
Yeah.
we enjoy working with. And I think that that's, at least from what I hear from other founders, really rare. That you typically end up with some investors that you're butting heads with. And we're really fortunate on both sides. So both our private investors and our venture capital investors have been really great to work with. But the funding process itself, difficult, longer than you want it to be. I feel like I know so much more now than I knew then. And so you're just kind of like wading into deep waters, figuring it out as you go.
Yeah. What is it? Reid Hoffman, who started LinkedIn, says building a startup is like putting together an airplane as it's falling through the sky. And I think, fundraising, it really punches you in the face if you don't have, like the no's help you figure out. But do you have any idea how many calls you had to do to raise $3.2 million? I used to ask all the time on the show.
We raised $1 million of the $3 million fairly quickly from kind of just individuals that we already knew. And so I don't know off the top of my head how many calls that we raised, or excuse me, how many calls that we made. I'm sure that for people watching the show who are very familiar with the process and who are maybe perhaps coaching on raising funds, there are several things we did wrong. Like, I feel like once we had the momentum of raising the $1 million, we should have really hit the gas. And instead, we were still kind of learning and figuring out who we wanted to reach out to and who we wanted to approach. And so it was probably, I don't know, I think we have about 13 investors total on our cap table.
Wow.
And we probably had 40 or 50 calls.
That's not that bad. Usually I hear over 100. But I want to go back to something you said because it's the perfect time for me to plug what I do as a marketer very naturally, not a shameless plug. This one, but no, the whole reason the podcast is called Funded Now What is because once you get the money, you need to start getting aggressive on the growth in marketing. You also have, auntie, or I always call it Big Daddy, or who are the investors in the room are now people you have to answer to. There was nobody really caring if you went to go watch the Argentina game with your son during the workday. No, I'm just messing with you. But inside joke for me and Taylor. But no, and that's the whole reason we exist at GrowthExpertz as marketing consultants is, founders doing a lot of the work. And then when you raise money, you finally have resources to invest. And a lot of founders make very common mistakes with growth post-funding, wasting a bunch of money on paid ads, hiring a bunch of agencies to do individual things that aren't mission aligned, or listening to a VC and installing a senior level marketer full-time that takes, 10% of that runway in one salary, but also doesn't really have early stage experience. They just have like a big logo company in their background. Or worse than all that, doing nothing, which is what it sounds like. Not saying you did nothing, but you got to put the pedal to the gas to the floor right after because you have momentum from the PR, from the fundraise. There's a lot of eyeballs on the company more than ever before, and you want to use that to create some hockey stick growth. So I appreciate you for being real about that. Let's talk about marketing. I mean, I think this is one of the cooler companies from a marketing point of view that I've spoken to, maybe even this year. Everybody, raising money is like B2B, which you are, but there's also a B2C aspect, like, because I think you'll agree, like sometimes you get a tenant that asks for it and then the company gets in contact. Hey, our tenants are asking for better ways, or so you want to get awareness on the end user, but you can acquire individual property managers through other less fun means. And so what does your marketing stack look like right now, and what is working for you guys and what haven't you tried?
Well, I agree with everything that you said on how you need to approach things and really be conscientious of how you're spending funds once you bring them in and how you're using that to leverage growth.
Absolutely.
In full disclosure, marketing is not my skill set. That is a piece of the business that I really struggle with.
Great.
And so there, the standard kind of startup, like we use HubSpot as a CRM. We use, we're tracking and we're sending, of course, residents emails as well as text messages. We also have a text to pay program that's part of our technology. And we do a lot of just kind of our marketing and communicating with our end customers and, of course, our property managers directly. But I'm always looking at what can we be doing from a marketing perspective. From the end of April until the end of May, we had 70% month over month growth. And so if we can just kind of, maintain that and continue going in the right direction, we're doing something right. But sometimes we have, right now we have 8, about to be 9 people on our team, and we don't see us like substantially growing that this year. And so a lot of times, when you're working on a new feature or working on a product, you're like, oh, we're not being consistent on our newsletter that we push out on LinkedIn, or what can we do a better job of from a marketing standpoint? And I definitely think that that's something that our team is always learning and figuring out. How can we stay lean and how can we continue to have the growth that we're having, but really lean into doing a better job of reaching our customers, the operators and the property managers, and then supporting the residents too.
Yeah. So out of that 8 or 9, how many people are focused on marketing? Anyone?
So we don't have a full-time marketing role. So it's always who's
perfect. Well, Irfana on my team reached out to the right founder for this. Then no, I think that the future of marketing looks pretty clear to me. It's, I scream from the rooftops that you need a senior level part-time person. That way, reducing the learning curve of, if you just hire a fresh graduate yourself, you still need to manage them, tell them what to do, train them, teach them. But you don't need to hire a full-time senior level person for your little startup. No offense. You just need someone that's seen the movie before, knows all the best tools, the AI strategies, and then a fresh graduate comes in with the work ethic and the drive and the free time and the lack of family distractions and stuff. And that person is digitally native and really ready to absorb all these new things that senior level person says. And so I think that's the marketing playbook. And then obviously in the middle, there's a bunch of AI and stuff building that junior marketer. Eventually the senior level person stays on just for equity after 3 to 6 months. But that junior person, what I'm seeing, talk about lean team, and we're now calling it the AI native marketing team or a marketing engineering team, because that person can do paid ads, web design, graphic design, content creation, SEO, PR, social media, like the work of an entire marketing team. And it's not like a slave driving insane workload because AI is doing a lot of the stuff. You mentioned like HubSpot being one of your main things. Like, I hate like AI written slop, so that doesn't work. But with human written templates, you can use a lot of automation tools to scale up the amount of outreach so that we don't have a human manually doing outreach every day, all day. That used to be the case even, 5-10 years ago, even before AI, everybody was, an outreach person, an SDR was a full-time role. Now that's just one of the many things that marketing engineer or that AI native marketer can do. But so 70 month-on-month growth is amazing. The main way you're growing is through HubSpot emails out to people, or how was the main channel for the growth?
I didn't say it quite that way. I mean, as far as other tools go, we're big fans of Claude, and we're also big fans of Intercom. And back to exactly what you were saying, just having kind of a brand voice and being able, if we're going to create marketing content, having the right templates in place. We do that. We have to do that. Without having someone kind of in that role of when someone on our team is jumping into marketing. But a big part of it is, I think we know that we found product market fit. We know that we're solving a problem that's out there, and we're coming into the space with a solution that really solves and makes these payment workflows easier and takes the pain out of that for our customer. So a big way that we've increased growth is just having good relationships in the industry, doing a really good job with our customers, and then getting referrals. But we also go to a lot of events as a team. We're getting ready to go to Apartmentalize in New Orleans next week. And so trade shows are big in the rental industry. And in my opinion, that's something that's extremely important. But on the marketing side, then it's like, okay, you have all of this HubSpot information of here's all the information we captured at a show. Now, what do you do with it? How are you following up with those property managers? How are you communicating with them? And how do you address differences between, for example, multifamily operators and manufactured housing operators, and have marketing materials that really addresses how their communities and industry is different?
All that's great, but $3 million raised with 10-person team cannot rely only on conferences to scale the business. I think I do see early stage startups going to conferences a lot more now than we used to even 10 years ago, because the cost of everything else is reduced. And then one thing AI can't do is go to a conference for you. And there's ROI there, definitely, but it should still be one piece of the marketing playbook. And the ROI, or the total cost of attending a conference, should be compared against that spend digitally. Like, what would you get? And that's where I see companies making mistakes. We spent $100,000 to go to this conference. We got 5 leads out of it. That's amazing. But if you gave me $100,000 for LinkedIn, I'd probably get 40 leads from the industry, if not more, like real leads. So my main advice there is to, one, limit that to like one conference per quarter, and also make sure that we're doing customer acquisition related marketing as ground cover all the time. So I'm just going to rant for a little bit here. This is the fun part of the podcast. Well, I guess I can turn it into a question. Are you doing anything like inbound to drive inbound customers? Like,
we are we definitely are not doing enough. And I agree with you. I think that there are conferences that are more valuable than others, and there's a difficulty of figuring out what is that one conference a quarter. And then there's also the digital advertising and marketing that goes into how are you setting up those conferences well, and what are you
True.
doing after.
Very true.
On the inbound side, we typically focus on either connections that we have kind of in the industry or to other customers or even to events, depending on the time in the quarter, whether it's a LinkedIn ad or an industry ad. We've also had some good success with running advertisements or making content in industry specific advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, a manufactured housing insights or magazine has been really successful for us. So just figuring out where we're going to look for new inbound leads, and if we're looking for someone we have some connections to, or if it's completely a colder outreach and trying to reach someone that we don't think we have a good connection to and we want them to have some awareness of us.
Makes sense. I think there's a couple things I want to talk about there. One is I've never talked about the marketing playbook for attending a conference. I think that's a really good thing to mention. And like that digital halo over the conference that you have to do, it really does 10x the results of a conference. Like I have a client that's going to a conference this week, and they're in the hospitality industry. So like you need to show up to these hotel conferences. Even though we are getting inbound, we've done the PR, all the other digital stuff is working, there's still that one conference per quarter. And we were too late on the conference to get an exhibiting booth. And the founders were really upset. Oh, our competitors are there. I'm like, well, why don't we make a drinks, canapes outside the conference thing and then privately invite 40 prospects? And we got 25 that agreed to come to this thing. And it was about a quarter of the cost of exhibiting. And so that's one thing I think companies should always do, is have a satellite event that you run yourself and you just invite actual prospects to. The second thing is running ads on LinkedIn, targeting the people that you know. Oftentimes, even without exhibiting, you can get a list of companies that are likely to attend or the companies that attended in the year prior, and you can run actual individual company targeted ads. You can search company name and you can run ads on LinkedIn to people only in certain roles at those certain companies. It's amazingly cheap actually, because there's only maybe, even the biggest conference, 1,500 companies or so that attend. It takes time to fill out, but the top 100, so LinkedIn ads showing that you're going to be there, it really works. People go, oh, I saw your ad on LinkedIn, if you do it for like a week or two prior. So something to think about for your event. If it's a big enough conference, and for instance, if you should be speaking at anything related to manufactured homes, like who's doing anything technologically advanced in that space. So, how we help underprivileged, underserved tenants not miss rent, which is obviously a benefit for the people. They get a better pay tenant history for themselves, then they can get better credit and better, but also never missing payments with these kind of like Section 8 housing tenants is like a huge benefit for the industry. So they'd want to have you speak. So if it's something that you're speaking at, then we want to do PR around that as well and put out a press release that you're speaking at the conference. Again, doesn't really cost anything. You put it on FreeWire, you send it to a couple outlets, maybe a couple blogs pick it up, but it's free promotion and it helps. Obviously we do automated LinkedIn and automated email outreach to people like a month to 2 months prior. I'm sure you're doing that to say, hey, our CEO is going to be attending this event. She'd love to meet with you. Can we set up a time? I try to use a Calendly link to like actually book people to come by our booth and have a chat, like 3 to 4 a day. They don't always show up, but it's good to have them on the calendar. We do a blog post, we do social media posts like 1 week prior, usually have someone attend that makes content there. Like, hey, so how many units do you own? Like people like that kind of stuff too. Like, so, you use the conference to, with a little lapel mic interview. So how many units do you own? Like the rich people content does really well on social media, thanks to, can't think of the guy's name, the School of Hard Knocks, like how did you become a billionaire type shit. And so you can use that to your advantage, or, other property owners want to hear another property owner. so that could spur word of mouth and be shared. So that was the first thing. Any questions there on like the playbook for attending a conference for marketing?
No, I love it. I mean, some of those things I feel like we've done a good job of, and other things we can certainly do a better job of. We've never had a calendar link kind of for the booth. And sometimes, it may be after a session and all of a sudden the booth is extremely overwhelmed. And so having some structure to when people come by, I like that idea a lot. We also haven't done but we've seen other people do this very successfully. We also haven't had a podcast at the booth. I've certainly spoken at events in the industry and talked about Occupy and what we're doing, but it's thinking about how to maximize, because you mentioned this. These events are so expensive. The booths are so expensive. Exhibiting is so expensive. And so if you're spending that much to get there and you're kind of taking off to go do it, or well, it's certainly not taking off, but you know what I mean? You're leaving your space.
Yeah.
You're leaving your space and you're not getting you're certainly not having a lot of email conversations or otherwise to go to this event. Getting as much out of it as you can and really pairing that with digital marketing is really important just to get the ROI you need from the event.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to, make the decision. Do we just send one person and not exhibit? Can we still get a lot of value out of it? Like you have to really, that's another thing that early stage startups do. Like we're so money scarce before we raise money. We're really tight. And then we raise money and we start making these, no offense, expensive decisions, when I think we should still be, we should still be pretty tight with the budget. Like that's $100,000 to go there. Maybe we spend $5 and just send our CEO to go network and see if we could get even, 1/10 of the value is 2x ROI than if we spend $100,000, if that makes sense. So
perfect sense.
So that's one thing. But what I didn't hear at all from when we asked about the inbound stuff is SEO and GEO. And do you know what GEO is?
I do. And I also know that we are not doing it right now.
Okay. And it is unbelievably powerful. So I'm going to give you a couple secret codes cheat codes for this. So, anytime you're innovating in like an old school space, outreach is the main way that you're letting companies know that, hey, this thing exists, like XYZ value prop, save time and effort, minimize your team on collections, have tenants miss less rent payments, have happier tenants, longer term tenants. All the value you send in a message is clear. That's great. But the amount of people you can reach through outreach is minuscule compared to the amount of people searching for ways to help my tenants or ways to decrease missed rent, top software for property owners, like all these different things, millions and millions of searches a month for this kind of stuff. And this is what I teach companies. Like even if you get famous brand, the amount of people searching the brand name is 1/1,000,000th of that are searching for the problem or the solution, the problem that you solve or the solution you provide. So you want to be able to come up when those searches are happening, because the intent is very high, the sales cycle is very short, and it's free for life. So, it's SEO and GEO they start out the same. The first thing you really need to do is finalize your marketing foundation and your website. And then it really becomes like a blogging and link building issue. But do you have a blog?
We do. We have primarily shifted to starting to use more LinkedIn newsletter. And so when we first started the company, we were kind of more pushing people to our blog, and we found that we've had much better response and reception to sending out newsletters, both through HubSpot to our property managers and to our campaign, as well as posting them to LinkedIn. And so that's something that we started doing fairly recently. And we've had a really good response to that, of doing more of a newsletter approach that we're sending out in multiple forms instead of having a true blog as part of our site. Mm-hmm. So that's the approach that we've taken right now. I will say, for me, as far as the search engine side goes, for me personally, there are other people on our team that are better at this. I think it's very challenging. Like when you're coming into it, and I see it, and I've seen how many people are searching for those problems, and I know everything that you're saying is true, but it's very tricky. Like, for example, one of our partners is we have an integration into the property management software Rent Manager. And so we found that a lot of times if someone's looking for a property management software company, which is not what we do, like they were finding kind of some of the early campaigns. So I know that the way that you set those campaigns up to make sure that you're reaching the audience that you want to reach, and maybe more importantly, the audience that making sure that it's not being shown to the audience you don't want to reach is much easier said than done. And so just making sure that you're working with someone that knows what they're doing and how they're setting that up, because we have tried that and we've done a few before, but that's something that we definitely have a lot to learn on.
Great. Okay, here we go. So first thing, the newsletters and the LinkedIn newsletter, those are to current customers and prospects that are already in your world. So that I barely care about. Maybe you have 200, maybe you have 500 subscribers. That is not anywhere near, again, like that number is infinitely smaller than the amount of people out there that can be searching for tools for digital rent payments, right? And so those things can both happen. You can keep doing that newsletter, but from a growth and customer acquisition point of view, I don't think it's even a drop in the bucket to the things that we could be doing. What I'm talking about with the blog is we're not pushing people to it. It's not even on the website. It's not visible in a header menu. It's for inbound to drive people to the website, to be the entry point into your universe. Because what Listicles, so do you know what a listicle is?
I do not.
Finally, one thing she doesn't know, guys. Okay. So a listicle
But there's plenty I don't know.
Well, we're about to find all of it and teach you all of it. So no, if you ever search for something and you see top 13, best 11 places, those are list articles, listicles, and ChatGPT, Grok, Perplexity, Google, everybody, Claude loves these listicles because they're unbiased content that ranks things, right? So on GrowthExpertz on our blog, we have top 7 ways to save money after raising funding as a startup, or top 11 digital marketing agencies for startups. Obviously, we put ourselves as number 1 because we truly believe that we're the best at what we do. We're 10 years in the market. Several of our clients have reached 9-figure valuations, and we're really passionate about what we do. But we also rank our competitors authentically based on how we feel about them, and that makes it an unbiased article in Google's eyes, and you get a lot of really high quality traffic from that. And so one side is these listicle articles, and the other is how-to articles. How to make what is a digital rent payment? How to make digital rent payments? How to save money on your rent? How to have tenants? How to never miss a rent payment again? Whatever. But all these how-to and listicle and what articles will be referenced by AI for millennia, until the world blows up in a few years, but so you want to create that content and then just set and forget. You don't really have to keep working on new content. And we look at Google Search Console on a monthly and quarterly basis and get ideas from Google on what new content to create. For instance, with GrowthExpertz, the search growth hacking techniques is getting 60,000 impressions for us a month from Google. So now we have to I need to take excerpts from my book and create some top growth hacking techniques blog articles so that we get to the front for those 60,000 impressions. So same thing for your business. It is unbelievably valuable for any B2B company to show up at the right time. But you're right, you have to figure out what those key terms are. But I see you're already optimizing for digital rent payments. So it's probably the best tools for digital rent payments for property owners, like how to, top 10 digital rent payment software in 2026, things like that. They're going to be searching for, and they're going to investigate the top 3 or 4 on their own. And if you put yourself as number 1, you're going to get a constant stream of free customers. And, the conference thing should always be a part of your playbook. But there's constant outreach on LinkedIn and on email. Those are automated through different tools. There is low budget advertising always on LinkedIn. Should be to anybody that says they're a property manager. I don't think running ads on Meta makes any sense for a B2B company. People do it when they have a lot of money raised because there's so much fat on those campaigns, as opposed to LinkedIn. Anyone that says they're a property manager, I want them to see this. What else? So We talked about blogging. PR, you should constantly be doing, especially because there's an altruistic side of this. Like you're focused on, are you geo specific, by the way? I should have asked earlier. No.
No, we're currently in 41 states and really want to serve anyone that's in the United States. Or I guess I should say we are, in the sense that if the company is outside of the US or banks outside of the US, we're really just focused on within the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good. There's plenty of problems here. Plenty of people that need help paying their rent here. Overall, I think a marketing playbook, you want to have things that I call ground cover. So there's always inbound GEO and SEO stuff working because it takes 3 months to really see the benefit. A year after investing in that GEO stuff, you almost don't need to spend money anymore. I mean, we don't, our contemporaries, I have friends that in SF, I live in San Francisco, that have like a sales version of GrowthExpertz that spend $15,000 a month on ads. We spend zero because we spent the last 16 months working on the GEO and SEO stuff. And I find that the sales cycle is much less. I had lunch with other agency owners and they have to meet like 4 or 5 times with clients or prospects to close them. Whereas when someone comes from ChatGPT or Claude, they are already pre-sold, like, oh, this is clearly the company that I need to work with because Claude told me so. We're humans, we outsource our decision making. It's the same way like back in the day we used to, oh wow, the website looks so nice, I must be able to trust this company. Which, by the way, your site looks great. Like normally I rip SaaS companies apart, but this is a simple, basic, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I would say, the image of the product could probably be better. Like if I work with anything related to payments, you want to show a product image of a payment being sent, some aha moment of like, congrats, all of your tenants paid rent this month, or something like that really explains to the customer that we get your rent paid on time for you, as opposed to something that looks like HubSpot, which is what it looks like.
There are several things on the marketing side that we could certainly be doing a better job of, but we try to keep the website and any communication that we have very simple. Like the process of getting the payments to the right place and getting deposits to the right operating account, it's not uncommon for us to work with a customer that has 50 or 100 operating accounts. So they have, and so we have a customer that has 45,000 units across the country. We have another customer that has 84,000. And so and then we have customers that have, 5.
Yeah.
And so making sure that their payments get to the right spot so they can pay their mortgage when they need to, and that everything's reported in the right report is so important. And figuring out how to make sure that we're conveying everything that we're doing through that process in the simplest way, and making sure that, it's like, I've had people say it several times, like if we're doing marketing the right way before an event, they'll say, I saw that Taylor's speaking at this, or I saw that
exactly
you guys implemented a new text to pay program. I think that will be really lovely for our residents. And before we even say anything, they're seeing that information. So when they come to our booth or when they call us or whatever the case may be, they already have that information and they're already seeing that.
Absolutely. Again, though, that's a small percentage of people that are going to be able to see that. The total addressable market is infinitely larger, and those people are searching. So if you take anything away from this, you need to have a search marketing focus at the business. And that could be, paid search is often the first thing I tell startups to spend money on. Again, if someone is searching for a digital rent payment solution for landlords, long search, high conversion rate. You'll pay anything for that click. Doesn't even matter if it's $20, because 1 out of 3 is going to book a meeting. So it's $60 cost per lead. You'll do it all day. What is the average customer lifetime value for you? Do you know that?
I heard you, real quick, I heard you say that you're going to help us figure out the best way to do this, make sure that we have search implemented the way we need to, and have it set up the best way.
I will absolutely help you. This podcast is focused on free value for you, but if you want to work together, I will definitely, I scream from the rooftops. We discount everything, all of our services for female founders and founders of color. And so, just trying to level the playing field, we would absolutely love to work with you. And I'd love to come to Birmingham. Never been there. Been to the one in England, but Birmingham, I've never been to Alabama. Anyway, it's
lifetime value. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. Let me do that. So our fee structure is really simple. We charge a flat $4 fee. So they pay a flat $4 fee for us plus the lowest processing cost, and we don't upcharge for processing. And then we provide the resident support at no additional cost. So all of our services are within that flat $4.
$4 a month per tenant, though.
$4 a month per payment, which usually looks like a monthly expense, but not always. Sometimes there can be multiple. Sometimes the community is paying for that. Sometimes the resident's paying that $4 fee. But generally speaking, I mean, payments is a very sticky industry. FinTech companies, if they can find their product market fit and they can nail marketing, I would say we found our product market fit, but we haven't nailed marketing.
Yeah.
If you can do both of those things and you get people into your accounts, they stay for a while.
Yeah.
And typically with our customer base, they're typically renting in the same community for 3 to 4 years before they're changing their lease structure. And so for us,
$200 per.
You got it.
Yeah. Nice. That's great. So and then, like you can, let's just say the average person has 100 units from 5 to 48,000 is a really big swing. I'm just like completely, do you know the average?
Average customer size is probably between a 5 and 12,000 range, which I know that's a big range, but it's usually a larger operator, but we have plenty larger and we have plenty smaller.
Even if we just said 5,000 is the average, 5,000 times 200 is $1 million, I think, isn't it? So $1 million average customer lifetime value.
Andrew, the one thing you can't ask me to do on this podcast is do math in my head. That's the one rule. But yes,
it might be 10 million. Either way, it's with $1 million customer lifetime value. That's why you can go to conferences. So for anybody listening to this, I don't think I've ever heard of $1 million. Well, I had a client in the telecom space that had a $500,000 a year like analytics dashboard for like the Verizons of the world, and we did all this other marketing stuff to really raise their profile so that they were able to be a brand that was trustworthy enough to close $1 million deals. This is different. The customer value is $1 million, but they're not forking over $1 million. It's just $4 every time you're collecting payment, which they'll do all day to ensure the money goes to the right places. People miss less payments. It's easier for my tenants. They stay longer. It's so many value props for $4. It's crazy. But the numbers still remain the same. If you have $1 million for every client, you can do fucking billboards. You can do crazy stuff, And so, but to go back to the GEO and, like if, let's say we're $100K for 6 months to execute all that stuff. But that also means bringing in a junior marketer into the team that you retain forever. So we'll find someone even in Alabama if need be, but we train that person from just all they know is theory from college and marketing graduate to then being an expert on paid ads, PR, SEO, GEO, content, social, web design. They manage the website. They do all the graphic creation, product demo videos, outreach, managing HubSpot, newsletters, all that. And but for that 100K, it only really needs to bring in one customer to have a 10x ROI. So that's the dream startup for us to work with because, we want to work with companies that we know we're going to be able to 100x our ROI for, because then it's, you become a referral agent for us. And so without selling myself, I mean, definitely it's time to invest in marketing across. You could build out a full-time team pretty quickly, but I think the best thing to do is to work with a consultant to know the playbook rather than test for a year trying to figure shit out. There's a couple interesting and fun tests you can do, like I talked about, but the playbook's it's there. There's other big incumbents in the space that have done that. You can see the anything B2C and B2B finance related, how it works. Do you have like compliance stuff that you have to go through? Yeah, that's the fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have a full-time in-house general counsel.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the worst part for me about working with you is everything marketing wise has to go through that person and get slowed down a lot, but it's necessary.
Me too, Andrew. And my partner, Josh, he'll listen to this later and be like, man, Andrew sounds like Taylor, always get beat up as the compliance person on the team, but he does. We have like in Slack, we're always saying, well, Josh. And so, but it's necessary. I mean, just making sure each state can have different payment rules. In some case, there can even be county by county payment rules. And so it's really a lot to navigate. When we first told our investors that the first employee we were hiring was an attorney who was a partner at a large firm in Alabama, they were like, Taylor, you have completely lost your mind. I'm having second thoughts. And then once Josh had joined the team and been with us for a couple of months, they were like, okay, it turns out you might have known what you were talking about. We're really glad that we're not paying a large firm for these huge bills, and that we have someone that's really bought into the company and the team.
Absolutely.
That it's working well.
And getting sued halfway through doing stuff can really hurt morale, and traction. So it's good to invest in those things. I think it's kind of the opposite with marketing. I think it's smart to limp in and then have a full-time person. But the whole value prop I offer is training that person up from the ground level, because finding someone that's passionate and geophysically based where you're at is a lot harder with the senior level experience already in place. But cool. Well, Taylor, it's been a joy. I'm super excited to learn more about the product and maybe even try and use it for my 5 tenants. I have another 2 coming by the end of the year as well with a unit I'm refurbishing. So I might need this so I don't have to watch it and I just know that it happens, because I have to follow up. Hey, I didn't see a Venmo. I don't want to do that. Do you have any questions for me before I let you go, based on what we talked about?
It sounds like, well, one, we would love to have you use the product. Would love to get your feedback on it. Where are your properties at?
California, Northern California.
Amazing. And 2,
are you there? Are you live in California?
I would love, oh yes, we are definitely, Occupi is definitely live in California.
Nice.
We have many properties in California. And 2, you need to come to Birmingham. We have great food here. It's a cool small city. If you make a weekend food trip to Birmingham, you would not be disappointed. We swing well above our weight in food through the city.
I've heard the South in general. I just don't know if I want to lose my 6-pack just on a weekend, just come back with a full gut. No, we'll make it a work trip. Maybe we'll talk about that. But Taylor, thank you so much. And for anybody listening, let me spell out the URL. It's paywithoccupi.com, right? Paywithoccupi.com. Right. So check it out if you have tenants and you want them to stop missing rent payments. Thanks, Taylor. See you around.
Thank you, Andrew.
That has been another episode of the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by GrowthExpertz. If you liked this episode, please subscribe. And if you really liked it, please share with other founders and entrepreneurs. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.